A very warm good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. I'm Matthias Aufiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another edition of the Evening Review Show. Well, Independence Day is just a few days away. Of course, Namibia will be turning 33, and I'm sure we're all excited about that, just to commemorate and celebrate how far we've come as a country. And for that, we have in studio tonight the Executive Director from the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, Dr. Audrin Mathe. Doctor, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good evening, my brother Matthias. It's good to see you.
It's good to have you on set. Well, I'm sure the entire ministry must be running around just to ensure that come 21st of March, it's all systems go as far as independence celebrations are concerned. Can you perhaps just give us a brief update as to what is currently transpiring on the ground?
Indeed, thank you so very much. This is, in fact, an interministerial preparatory committee, which is chaired by the Secretary to Cabinet, Dr. George Simata. It has ministries such as our ministry, Minister of Works, Office of the President, Office of the Prime Minister, the other ministries, including Minister of Education and so forth. So it's an interdisciplinary ministerial committee that is tasked with preparing national events, including independence celebrations.
Yeah.
As we speak now, our home bodies, they are already in the north to ensure that everything else from a logistic point of view is going smoothly. Most of the people, obviously, as we speak now, they should be here. Come Tuesday, everything is systems go.
Yeah.
What we have done is that we're working together with the Office of the Regional Governor of Outapi as the host region to also ensure that what is required from a regional perspective is factored into our national plans to ensure that no one else is left behind with regards to the state of our readiness. That is why we are working not in silos, but as a team that is committed to bring out one of the best events ever.
Of course, the theme this year, People United for Prosperity, quite opportune, if one might say. What is the thinking behind a theme of that nature, considering where we are as a country at the present moment?
I'm struggling to hear you. Your volume seems to be very low on my end. I wonder if you do something about it, but at the same time, if you can just repeat that question.
Yeah. It was mainly around the theme for this year's celebration, People United Towards Prosperity. Quite opportune, and considering where we are as a country now. What has motivated such a theme, and why did government see it fit to have it for this year?
As you may know, the theme is decided for a period of 5 years. This is the third year in which we have People United for Prosperity. Essentially, it speaks to us as a people that without unity of purpose, there can never be a state of development in our country. And to achieve that, us as a people need to walk in the same direction without having to lose anyone behind. Because in the first instance, independence was won because you have a great many Namibians standing on one side, fighting colonialism that was in our country at that stage. If we were completely divided, independence would not have been won. Looking into the future, it requires the same effort as we did before independence to ensure that if we want to develop our country, we need to unite in developing the Namibian state that all of us desire. So that's really what informs the theme, which I said already runs for 3 years now. The new theme will only be developed in readiness for the 35th independence celebrations in 2025.
Okay. Of course, as far as enjoying the fruits of independence and the state of development is concerned, many see that as a very relative term. Some would say, is there still a relevance in celebrating independence while you have people who are still suffering. And I'm sure you've seen those sentiments on social media. So how does government work on addressing this type of attitude towards days such as 21st March?
There's not a price tag to freedom and independence. And government is structured in such a manner that can tackle multiple activities all at once. We can still build schools, we can build hospitals and clinics, we can still build roads. At the same time, find only one day in 365 days in which you celebrate your birthday. I don't think that's too much. Government is focused on ensuring the prosperity of the Namibian people. You look at the budget that the Minister of Finance tabled maybe some 3 weeks ago. It covers different aspects of our lives. For example, there's been a lot of appropriation that goes towards youth empowerment. It may not be much as people would expect, but there's the budget is fragmented in such a manner that the health sector is covered, education is covered, rural development, road infrastructure, health services, all those are to the national agenda. So out of the many 365 days, it will not be too much just to take one day of that to ensure that we celebrate our birthday. And if you look at the money that is being spent, we are spending less than $2.5 million on celebrating the independence celebrations in Outapi. So again, this if you take 2.5 out of an appropriation of is it $79 billion, it's really a drop in the ocean. But this is not to say that other activities, as I've said, are not important. The government is committed towards addressing all of those challenges, and we are consciously aware of what's ought to be done. And the government is working together. Government structures are working together through various consultations to say what are the priorities in all of our region. Once again, just to qualify this, each region has received an appropriation to ensure that the development in their own area that are planned from a center or from a regional perspective are carried out, whereas the national government has an eagle's microscope to ensure that the national agenda is coordinated through central structures.
So, in your view, and of course you've been around for so long, what would you ascribe the change of sentiments to as far as national days are concerned? I mean, you've had 10, 15 years ago wherever national days are commemorated, the venue is packed. But these days we've seen the attendance figures dwindling. What could one ascribe that to?
Well, as you may know, for the last 3 years, in fact, for the last of the 2 years, or the 3 years, the activities were scaled down deliberately to avoid the spread of COVID. In fact, 2020, 2021, those were scaled down to a point where if there was an event that took place, that was by invitation. This will be the first open invitation for independence celebrations since the COVID. So obviously you can expect that the crowds will be different from what it was over the last 2-3 years. So I don't accept the premise to say that it's because people are fed up. It's only because invitations were extended to a limited group of people. But for the first time since COVID, now there's an option. I can tell you now that we expect no less than 12,000 people to attend the celebrations in Outapi. And again, this is only because it's centralized. It's not in the past where each region had their separate celebrations, but this one we've decentralized it, so everybody else comes into one region. This is also excludes the people who will be moving from one region to the next. At a minimum, you will have only the national leadership, the regional leadership, and the local structures being invited to independence celebrations. So this is how it was designed. Also, we are aware that most of the time our events are bigger when it's a 20 or a 25. So I can assure you now that the 35th independence celebrations will probably be bigger, will mirror what we've seen 95, 2000, 2005 in that arithmetic number.
Yeah. Of course, I remember, I can't quite recall if it was 2012 or 2013, somewhere there, when as a country we launched the Nationhood Pride campaign. How far have we come in that regard, and would you say it has yielded the desired results?
That campaign is ongoing. Obviously, again, a lot of activities were scaled down in the last 3 years because of COVID. We've only been able to have a review workshop last year in October to activities that are going to be taking place from now onwards, because we can gather together now and discuss solutions to the problem. So that is underway. For example, I can tell you already that there are some discussions regarding having to have a national costume, wearing a national costume on a particular day in a week. Without revealing too much, we are discussing with the Ministry of Youth, Sport and National Service through the National Sports Commission what some of those recommendations that we can include is part of us being proud of our country.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are ongoing conversations to adopt a national pledge of loyalty to the state, which will be made available in schools. Again, this is being led by the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Education as key implementers. So there are 12 pledges, there are 12 pillars that encompass national pride. And most of the stakeholders, some of the stakeholders are out of government, but we regard them as key stakeholders because they are tasked with implementing some of these pillars.
Yeah. Well, Doctor, we'll head for a short break quickly and we'll be back to continue this conversation around this very important subject matter. Well, to our viewers, we head for a quick break. Don't touch the dial and stay tuned.
Namibia's hospitality is as vibrant as its people. Join the What's Cooking team as they travel the country cooking, chatting, and celebrating local personalities and the joy of food. If you think you have a standout offering, whether it's a restaurant, bar, pop-up event, or braai stand, get in touch with the What's Cooking team at cooking@synergy.com.na, and we will be there to show the world what's cooking. Programs air every Friday at 4 p.m. on all the NMH Facebook platforms, as well as on NTV, DSTV channel 285, and GoTV channel 94 at 9 p.m.
Well, welcome back from the short break. Well, Dr. Mathe, we continue our conversation. And just before we went to the break, you touched on the issue of our nationhood and pride campaign, the pledge and everything that's in the pipeline as far as ensuring national unity is concerned. And I like the fact that you mentioned that schools are a key stakeholder. Can you maybe just touch base on that as to, as far as the education sector is concerned? And of course, we always say catch them when they are young. Is this the principle that's being adopted here?
Indeed. This is nothing new in relation to what other countries have done already. The idea is that we want to build a certain brand of loyalty among us. You can do so, especially when the young are growing, because they become to be the leaders of tomorrow. You and I and those that are older than us, perhaps they're imbued with a different thinking altogether, but the young ones can be, they're born innocent. They are persuadable to whatever direction that they get to be imputed in. And that's why we thought that we should catch them at a young stage. There's nothing illegal or abnormal being loyal to your country. Most of us have loyalty only to one country. I don't have a passport of another country. So this is the only country that I have. and there are responsibilities that comes with being a citizen. One is upholding the laws of that country, obeying them, but also to have a minimum level of loyalty to that country. Because if we destroy it now, all of us becomes a disaster. So that's why these programs are important. For example, at the National Youth Service Training Centers, the one in Redfontaine, outside of Redfontaine, we are introducing the same program as well to ensure that those trainees that goes for service training, then they get also to be imparted with these skills so that hopefully they become better citizens than some of us have been.
Yeah. And of course, we have seen patches of unwanted vices such as tribalism in recent years. We've also heard not so long ago there were complaints where some sectors of the public feels that certain groups gets preference as far as allocation of natural resources, be it jobs, are concerned. How do we tackle that and still at the same time forge unity within our society?
You know, the independence came at a high cost for many of our people. When you read verses of tribalism, regionalism, and all of those negativism in our media, in our public sphere, it worries that to what extent are we as a nation able to hold together and forge ahead irrespective of all the differences that may emanate from the languages that we speak, from the kind of food that we eat, from the kind of dresses that we wear. The reality is that some of these maybe perception. For example, is it true that certain tribes get more jobs in relation to the others? There will be differences about this interpretation. Is it because they are in the majority, or are they invisible because of the numerical strength in relation to the rest of the population? So there has to be some kind of realism to be able to explain the demographics of our country.
Yeah.
And I mean, I work in government now. You know, I have not seen an explanation being given to me to say that we've hired this person because she's from or he's from Zambezi, other than the fact that there are merits with regards to the qualifications and experience of that person. That's what must really consider when you're appointing people.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have to be conscious to say, are there groups in Namibia that are underrepresented in the public service? You could easily look at the Sen community, the Himbas. If indeed there are positions where they're qualified, it have to be a deliberate effort to ensure that even those they're brought into the fold of the public service. And I think that's in Namibia that all of us want, that becomes representative of all groups that lives in it. I think from the diversity we can only benefit because that diversity brings differences of interpretations, differences of skills perception, differences of tradition of how things ought to be done. All of us are stronger only if you can embrace that.
Yeah. Well, I'm asking this in hindsight with the thought that there has also been views that we tend to easily perhaps shrug off these concerns of our fellow citizens who feel that things are happening in a manner which is not, which doesn't promote equity and equality within our society. So many feel that it's not really fair to just brush off these allegations. Which, in your view, is the best way to tackle this matter?
I think when decisions are made, those who are tasked with making those decisions, they must be able to explain behind those decisions. I think the more we explain ourselves, the better we should by those that will be listening to us. I think that when questions arise about how tenders are awarded or how people are appointed, we should be able to explain that, to say these are the qualifications of this person, this is the experience this person has, commensurate to the position in which he or she is being appointed to. I think we have to be very deliberate about that. The reason why it's important for us to do that, because there will be perceptions that will translate into reality,
Yeah.
which in turn have basis in fact. That is why, obviously it doesn't mean that when these things are raised, they are automatically true. It may very well be that there are perceptions regarding to that. It may very well be that there's some truth in it. That is why we have to address it with the facts that we have when those decisions are being made. You will see now that there was a tender from the Minister of Health. Obviously, there was a public outcry about it. That tender was evaluated, and decisions were made. And later, the decisions was changed to reflect the sentiments that we thought were right at that point in time. So I think this is how we ought to be operating going forward.
Yeah.
Once we're able to explain our decisions, there will definitely be very little doubting Thomas out there.
Yeah.
So that's a basis of rationality when it comes to perceptions and reality.
Yeah. Well, Doctor, any last words from your side as far as next week's event is concerned?
Independence, I can only reiterate that the Independence Day comes only once in 360 days, sometimes 366. There's no reason why we should not set one day. It's not even one day. It's 5 hours of celebration to say, this is our sacrifices. We reap the rewards of those that have come before us. Some are still alive, some have since deceased. We need to embrace this day. We invite everyone from all corners of the country to come in and be witness to this day. It's the first time that it's being held in Outapi region. People therefore are encouraged to come in big numbers.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not able to transport everyone from every corner of the country, but those within Outapi region, at designated places, there will be transport available from them from our focus center, where the many celebrations under the leave of President Gengo will take place. Yeah. So there is no any other invitation other than to say, please come in big numbers to celebrate this day with the rest of the national leadership.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Mathe, thank you much for your time this evening. We highly appreciate your input. Well, to our viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team this evening. As we build up to next week's 33rd Independence celebration, we wish you well. Take care and see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you.
The My.NA Cars Show provides viewers with the best-in-class cars content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest cars-related news, products, and services. My.NA Cars aims to reach the car enthusiasts and all motoring industries, focusing on motoring news, test drives, maintenance, fast finance, accessorides, and more. This show is broadcasted on NTV, OneUp2.com, and cross-shared on the following Facebook platforms: The Republican, Algemene Zeitung, and Namibia Media Holdings. Contact My.NA at synergy.com.na to share your motoring news or to advertise your motoring product and service. My.NA Cars, more than just a ride.